He came with smiles. He came with gifts. He came with wealth that grew too fast, too easily. And slowly, quietly, destinies in the compound began to disappear. This is the haunting tale of a compound in the heart of Lagos, a place where poverty mixed with hope, where neighbors lived like family, and where trust was a priceless currency until a stranger named Bright arrived. Welcome back, my people, to Tales by Larinzy, the home of gripping African stories, mysteries, and lessons that touch the soul. If you love powerful storytelling that keeps you thinking long after the tale ends, then you're in the right place. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because today's story is one you will never forget. Tonight on Tales by Larinzy, we dive into the compound of stolen destinies, a story of deception, spiritual warfare, and the dangerous price of ignorance. Settle in, turn up your volume. You're about to uncover a truth many fear to speak. In the bustling heart of Lagos, there stood a compound at number 47 Ademola Street. It was one of those old colonial buildings that had been subdivided into many rooms, housing families of different tribes, religions, and occupations. The compound gate was always open, children played in the courtyard, and the communal well in the center served as a gathering place where neighbors shared stories, gossip, and the burdens of city life. Among the tenants were Mama Ngozi, a widow who sold akara and pop every morning. Brother Tunde, a struggling civil servant with 6 children. Auntie Blessing, a seamstress whose sewing machine rattled from dawn to dusk. Papa Emeka, a taxi driver who worked night shifts, and many others who labored daily for their daily bread. Then there was Bright. Bright moved into the compound 3 years ago, occupying the room at the far corner, closest to the abandoned sections. He was a young man, perhaps 28, with a quick smile and an easy manner. When he first arrived, he had only one Ghana must-go bag and wore faded jeans with worn-out shoes. "I'm into online business," he told anyone who asked. "You know, buying and selling on the internet." The older tenants nodded knowingly, though they didn't quite understand. The younger ones recognized the coded language. "Yahoo, Yahoo," they whispered among themselves. Internet fraud. But in a compound where everyone struggled, nobody was quick to judge. Within 6 months, everything changed. Bright bought a gleaming Honda Accord, then a generator that powered his air conditioner day and night. His clothes transformed into designer labels: Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Versace. Gold chains appeared around his neck, growing thicker with each passing month. His room, once bare, was renovated with Italian tiles and leather furniture, visible through his always open door. "My business is booming," he would announce, his laughter echoing across the compound. "God is good." "Amen," the tenants would chorus, though the word God seemed to taste strange in connection with Bright's sudden wealth. But Bright was generous. Oh, so generous. Every Friday evening, he would emerge from his room with crates of beer, soft drinks, and a cooler filled with peppered meat. He would set up in the compound courtyard, clapping his hands to gather attention. "My people, come and celebrate with me. Free drinks for everyone." The men would gather eagerly, praising him. "Bright, you are a good man, oh, not like these stingy rich people. Our son has made it. God will continue to bless your hustle. This one a correct guy. When he chop, him neighbors must chop too." For the children, Bright always had treats, biscuits, sweets, ice cream. The little ones would run to him, their faces bright with anticipation. Uncle Bright, they would sing. He would laugh, distributing the goodies with a flourish. "Come, come, my future billionaires, enjoy yourselves." The mothers would smile gratefully. In a compound where feeding children was a daily struggle, such kindness seemed heaven-sent. When Mama Ngozi's stall was destroyed by area boys and she wept beside the well, it was Bright who appeared with an envelope containing 50,000 naira. "Take, Mama. Rebuild your business. You can pay me back whenever." Mama Ngozi fell to her knees. "Bright, you are a blessing. May God bless you and your children and your children's children." When Brother Tunde's salary was delayed for 3 months and his children were sent home from school for unpaid fees, Bright settled the debt. "We are family," he said simply, waving away Brother Tunde's tears of gratitude. The compound adopted him as their son, their brother, their benefactor. Whenever he walked through the courtyard, conversations would pause, as tenants greeted him with reverence usually reserved for chiefs. "Bright, well done. Our star boy, big man himself." And Bright would wave magnanimously, his smile wide, his eyes hidden behind expensive sunglasses, even in the evening. But as Bright's star rose, strange things began to happen in number 47 Ademola Street. It started with the clothes. Auntie Blessing was the first to complain. She had washed her best Ankara dress, the one she wore to church, and hung it on the line to dry. By evening, it was gone. "Which kind wickedness be this?" she cried. "Thief in this compound." A search was conducted, but the dress never appeared. 2 weeks later, Papa Emeka's favorite shirt vanished from the line. Then Mama Ngozi's wrapper. Then Brother Tunde's son's school uniform. Each time the clothes disappeared in broad daylight, with people moving around the compound. "Maybe it's those street boys jumping the fence," someone suggested. "But why only one cloth at a time?" another countered. "Thief go thief, everything nah, not one by one." The disappearances continued. Underwear, children's clothes, head ties, even wrappers that had been used during childbirth. The pattern made no sense. Sometimes valuable items were left untouched, while old, worn clothes vanished. Bright was sympathetic. "This Lagos is full of wicked people," he would say, shaking his head. "Let me install security cameras for the compound. My treat." The cameras appeared, but the clothes kept disappearing. Then people started falling sick. Brother Tunde, who had been robust despite his struggles, began to waste away. His body thinned as though something was eating him from inside. He visited hospitals, tried herbal treatments, went to his village for traditional cleansing. Nothing worked. His wife spent all the money Bright had given them on medical bills, then borrowed more. "It's as if my destiny has been blocked," Brother Tunde whispered one evening at the well. "Every door I knock closes. Every opportunity turns to sand in my hands." Others nodded. They were experiencing the same thing. Auntie Blessing's sewing machine, which never lacked customers, suddenly sat idle. Clients stopped coming. When she sought them out, they claimed they had never promised her any work. Her hands, once steady and sure, began to tremble, ruining the few orders she received. Papa Emeka had 3 accidents in 2 months, wrecking his taxi. Each time he survived with minor injuries, but his taxi was destroyed. Passengers started avoiding him, saying they felt a dark cloud around him. Mama Ngozi's Akara business, rebuilt with Bright's money, failed spectacularly. The beans wouldn't fry properly. Customers complained of strange tastes. Some fell sick. Soon, nobody would buy from her. The children of the compound, once vibrant and playful, became listless. They fell sick frequently, mysterious fevers, nightmares, unexplained injuries. Some stopped speaking, others began to see things in the dark corners of the compound. And through it all, Bright prospered. His latest car was a Range Rover. He was building a mansion in Lekki. He traveled abroad monthly, Dubai, London, America. His Instagram was a showcase of luxury that made the compound's youth both envious and suspicious. "Something is not right," whispered some of the older women, but quietly, because who wanted to offend their benefactor? Then the deaths began. First was Brother Tunde's eldest son, a bright boy of 16 who had dreams of becoming an engineer. He fell from the balcony, the very same balcony he had climbed 1,000 times to hang clothes. The death was ruled an accident, but his mother swore she heard him screaming about shadows with red eyes before he fell. 2 months later, Papa Emeka died in his sleep. The doctor said heart attack, but Papa Emeka was only 42 and had no history of heart problems. At his wake, his mother, a powerful prayer warrior from the East, arrived and declared, "My son did not die a natural death. Something in this compound killed him." The tenants shifted uncomfortably, but nobody spoke. The compound, once filled with laughter and gossip, became a place of fear. Tenants hurried from their rooms to the gate and back again, avoiding lingering in common areas. The children no longer played. The well stood unused, except when absolutely necessary. Bright alone seemed untouched by the despair. He moved through the gloom like a sun in human form, still generous, still smiling, still offering drinks and money. "These are just unfortunate incidents," he would say. "Lagos is hard, life is hard, but we must support each other." And because people were desperate, because they needed his money to bury their dead and treat their sick, they nodded and accepted his help, even as something deep inside them screamed warnings. Change came in the form of Pastor Jeremiah. He was Mama Ngozi's cousin from the village, a small, wiry man with intense eyes and an air of barely contained power. He was not one of those flashy city pastors with private jets and designer suits. He wore simple clothes and carried only a worn Bible and a small sack. "I had a vision," he told Mama Ngozi upon arriving. "I saw you and your neighbors trapped in a web and a spider feeding on your blood. The spirit said, 'Go.' So I came." Mama Ngozi wanted to dismiss him. Her cousin had always been dramatic, but desperation made her listen. She gathered the remaining tenants who hadn't fled the compound. 15 people sat in nervous silence as Pastor Jeremiah walked around, his eyes closed, his lips moving in prayer. He stopped in front of Bright's room. "Here," he said simply, "the source is here." Bright was away, one of his frequent trips to Abuja. His door was locked with a heavy padlock, and the windows were barred. "We cannot break into someone's room," Brother Tunde's wife protested, though her voice shook. "That is criminal." Pastor Jeremiah turned to her. "Your son is dead. Your husband is dying. You have buried 3 babies in 2 years. What more criminal thing can happen to you?" Silence. "This man," the pastor continued, pointing at Bright's door, "has made a covenant with darkness. He belongs to a secret cult. They call themselves different names, but the method is the same. He feeds them your destinies, your lives, your futures. In exchange, they give him wealth and power." "But how?" Mama Ngozi whispered. "We have done nothing to him. We welcomed him. That is how such things work. Proximity is enough. The clothes stolen from your lines, he uses them in rituals. Clothes carry your sweat, your essence. With them, the cult can tie your destiny to their altars. They drain you slowly, like tapping palm wine from a tree. You feel blocked, sick, unsuccessful. Meanwhile, they thrive. "We should call police," someone suggested weakly. Pastor Jeremiah laughed bitterly. "Police? What will you tell them? That you suspect spiritual manipulation? They will laugh at you. No, we must expose this with spiritual eyes so physical eyes can see." They broke down Bright's door that evening. The women hung back, clutching rosaries and whispering prayers. The men, armed with iron rods and machetes, went in first. What they found made them retch. The room they knew, with its beautiful furniture and entertainment system, was merely the front. Behind a false wall was another room, windowless and reeking of death. Red candles stood in circles on the floor, their wax pooled like blood. In the center was an altar made of human skulls, at least 7, polished white and grinning. Surrounding them were photographs of every tenant in the compound, each one punctured with nails through the eyes and heart. Hanging from the ceiling were the missing clothes, arranged in a macabre circle, each item stained with something dark and crusted. Beneath each piece of clothing was a calabash filled with a mixture that crawled with maggots. On one wall was a roster, written in red ink. Names, dates. Beside each name was a notation. Destiny extracted 40%. Life force, depleting. Next sacrifice, son, aged 7. Brother Tunde's family was listed. Papa Emeka's name had complete written beside it in large letters. The children of the compound were catalogued with projected harvest dates. In one corner was a shrine with the image of a demon, multiple heads, red eyes, holding chains. Before it were offerings, fresh blood in bowls, money in neat stacks, and strangest of all, a ledger book. Pastor Jeremiah opened the ledger with trembling hands. It was an accounting book. On one side, deposits from the cult. On the other, what Bright had paid, always in human suffering. One destiny equals 500,000 naira. One death equals 2 million naira. One child's future equals 1 million naira. Bright had become a millionaire by selling his neighbors' lives to demons. Take pictures, Pastor Jeremiah commanded. Everything. We need evidence. But as they photographed the horror, Mama Ngozi noticed something else, a small mirror covered in black cloth. When she uncovered it, she screamed. In the mirror's surface, moving like shadows, they could see themselves in the reflection, but not as they were. They saw themselves as they should have been, Brother Tunde's wife holding a newborn baby, healthy and laughing. Papa Emeka driving a new taxi, his face unlined by worry. Brother Tunde in a graduation gown, Auntie Blessing's daughter in a wedding dress. Mama Ngozi in front of a thriving restaurant. Their stolen futures, trapped in glass. This is a destiny mirror, Pastor Jeremiah whispered. It captures what should have been and feeds it to the cult. Your destinies are imprisoned here. They heard Bright's car pull up at midnight. He was humming as he walked through the gate, his phone pressed to his ear, laughing about some deal. The compound was dark, unusually so. He didn't notice the silence until he reached his door and found it hanging open. Bright froze. Then he ran, but the gate had been locked and bound with iron chains by the compound's ironmonger, who understood that some cages needed traditional reinforcement. Going somewhere. Pastor Jeremiah emerged from the shadows, followed by every living tenant of the compound. They held flashlights, creating a circle of light that trapped Bright against his own door. Bright's face transformed. The friendly mask melted away, replaced by something ancient and cold. His eyes, which had always been hidden behind sunglasses, now showed their true color. Yellow with red rims, like embers in darkness. You don't know what you're doing, he said, his voice different now, deeper, layered with other voices. I own all of you. Your names are written in blood. You are bound to me. If I fall, you fall. That's a lie, Pastor Jeremiah said calmly. The covenant was made without their consent. It has no power over those who reject it. Bright laughed, a sound that made dogs howl throughout the neighborhood. They accepted my gifts. They ate my food. They took my money. They praised me. That is consent enough. We didn't know, Mama Ngozi cried. You deceived us. Ignorance doesn't break spiritual contracts, Bright sneered. Every drink you took from me, every naira you accepted, every time you called me big man, you strengthened the bond. You are mine. Some of the tenants began to weep. Was it true? Were they forever cursed? But Pastor Jeremiah raised his Bible. The deceived are not bound by the deceiver's rules. We break every ungodly covenant made through ignorance and manipulation. By the authority of the Most High, we reject your claims, Bright screamed. It was not a human sound. The light bulbs in the compound exploded. The ground trembled. From Bright's room came a howling that sounded like many voices screaming in rage. You cannot break what has been sealed, multiple voices poured from Bright's mouth. We are the Brotherhood of the Blood Moon. We have existed for centuries. Our power means nothing before the name above all names, Pastor Jeremiah interrupted. He began to pray in a language none of them recognized, ancient and powerful. The destiny mirror in Bright's room shattered with a sound like a gunshot. Bright collapsed, convulsing. Black smoke poured from his mouth, his nose, his ears. The smoke formed shapes in the air, faces twisted in rage and hunger, before dissipating into nothing. When it was over, Bright lay still, breathing shallowly. The yellow had left his eyes, leaving them simply brown, human. He looked smaller somehow, younger, diminished. What have I done? He whispered, his voice his own again for the first time in years. They called the police, but not before Pastor Jeremiah performed a cleansing ritual. He burned the stolen clothes, broke every talisman, destroyed the altar, and poured anointing oil on every photograph. The human skulls were given proper burial after police documentation. Bright confessed everything. He had been initiated into the cult in his university days, desperate to escape poverty. They had promised him wealth beyond measure, but the payment was always due, human suffering, preferably from those closest to him. The compound had been perfect. A captive community of struggling people who would trust him, accept his gifts, and never suspect. They told me it was just business, Bright wept. Spiritual business. Everyone does it to get ahead. I didn't think it would feel like this when I saw them dying. But you kept doing it, Brother Tunde's wife said coldly. You watched my son fall from that balcony. You came to his funeral. You comforted me. And you knew you had killed him. Bright had no answer. Some sins are beyond words. The police took him away. The newspapers reported it as fraud and murder, avoiding the spiritual elements that made cynical journalists uncomfortable. Some tenants testified. Others, fearing exposure to ridicule, remained silent. The compound itself was cleansed by multiple pastors, alphas, and traditional priests. Nobody was taking chances. Every corner was washed with holy water, prayed over, and blessed. The room where Bright had kept his altar was sealed permanently, the door bricked up as if it had never existed. Slowly, life returned to number 47 Ademola Street. Brother Tunde, who had been wasting away, began to gain weight. His luck turned. Within 3 months, he received a promotion he had been denied for years. His wife became pregnant again, a healthy pregnancy that ended in a beautiful baby girl with a powerful cry. Mama Ngozi's business revived. Her akara became popular again, and soon she had enough money to open a proper restaurant. She named it Mercy's Place, for mercy is what she felt she had received. Auntie Blessing's hands steadied. Orders poured in. She trained apprentices and became known throughout Lagos for her skill. The children of the compound began to laugh again. Their nightmares ceased. They played football in the courtyard, and their voices, lifted in argument and joy, were the most beautiful sound the tenants had ever heard. But some things could not be restored. Papa Emeka remained dead. Brother Tunde's eldest son remained dead. Auntie Blessing's grandchild remained dead. The mirror had shown them what could have been, but those specific futures were lost forever, cut short by Bright's evil. The compound held a memorial service for those they had lost. Pastor Jeremiah led the prayers, his voice strong and sure. "We cannot undo what has been done," he preached. "The dead cannot return, but we can honor them by living, truly living in freedom. Evil tried to devour this community, but you survived. You exposed the darkness. You chose truth over comfort, revelation over ignorance." "But we were so blind," Mama Ngozi said. "How did we not see?" "Because evil is a good tailor," the pastor replied. "It wears the clothes we want to see. It speaks the words we want to hear. It offers the gifts we desperately need. The only defense is wisdom and community. Share your suspicions. Question strange blessings. Remember that true prosperity does not require others to suffer." In time, new tenants moved into the compound. The old-timers would tell them the story of Bright and the compound of stolen destinies. Some dismissed it as superstition. Others listened carefully and watched for signs. Mama Ngozi developed a habit of warning young people who moved in, especially those with sudden wealth and vague explanations. "Not everyone who smiles at you loves you," she would say. "Not every gift is a blessing. If someone's prosperity coincides with your problems, ask questions. If clothes go missing, if children fall sick, if death walks among you while one person shines, investigate." "But how do we know?" they would ask. "How do we tell the difference between a blessed person and a cursed one?" "Watch the fruit," she would reply. "A blessed person lifts others through their gifts. A cursed one makes others smaller so they can be bigger. A blessed person's prosperity creates prosperity around them. A cursed one's wealth feeds on others' poverty." Years passed. Bright served his prison sentence, 25 years for murder, conspiracy, and ritual practices. The cult he belonged to was exposed, its members scattered, though whispers said they simply went underground, waiting for the public attention to fade. In prison, Bright found religion, whether genuine or another mask, none could say. He wrote letters to the compound begging forgiveness. Most were returned unopened. Mama Ngozi alone read them, though she never replied. "I pray for him," she told Pastor Jeremiah during one of his visits. "Not because I've forgiven him, I don't know if I can, but because I refuse to let hatred bind me the way his cult bound our destinies." The compound of number 47 Ademola Street became something of a legend in Lagos. Churches used it as a cautionary tale. Imams referenced it in sermons. Parents warned their children about accepting gifts from strangers. But more importantly, it became a community truly bound together, not by manipulation or dark covenants, but by shared trauma and mutual support. The tenants formed a cooperative, helped each other's businesses, shared resources, and, most crucially, maintained transparency. They established a rule: any tenant with sudden, unexplained wealth would be asked direct questions. If the answers were unsatisfactory, the community would investigate. Privacy was important, but not more important than collective safety. Some accused them of being intrusive, judgmental, even superstitious. "Let them talk," Brother Tunde would say. "We buried children because we were too polite to ask questions. Never again." The story of the compound taught many lessons, whispered from mother to daughter, father to son, neighbor to neighbor. That evil wears many faces, and the most dangerous is the friendly one. That desperation makes us vulnerable to manipulation. That community requires vigilance, not just fellowship. That questions are not disrespectful when lives are at stake. That generosity without accountability should be questioned. That spiritual warfare is real and must be taken seriously. That poverty is hard, but selling your soul, or your neighbor's, makes it worse. But perhaps the most important lesson was this: darkness thrives in silence, but light grows when truth is spoken. The compound of number 47 Ademola Street stood as a testament to this truth. It was no longer just a building divided into rooms. It was a community that had looked into the abyss, seen evil wearing a smile and designer clothes, and chosen to expose it even when exposure was dangerous. They had learned that true wealth is not measured in Range Rovers and foreign trips, but in children who live to adulthood, in neighbors who prosper together, in nights untroubled by nightmares, in destinies that belong to their rightful owners. And every Friday evening when the compound gathered, as they still did, they shared food and drinks. But now they also shared stories, asked questions, and watched over each other. Not with suspicion, but with love. The kind of love that sees clearly, speaks truth, and protects fiercely. Because they had learned at terrible cost that sometimes the greatest danger comes not from outside enemies, but from the one who sits among you, smiling and offering biscuits to your children while stealing their futures. And they would never, ever forget. 20 years later, a young man named Chidi moved into the compound. He had money, good money, and a kind smile. He brought gifts for the children and offered to help with repairs. The oldest tenants watched him carefully. "What do you do?" Mama Ngozi asked him directly, her eyes sharp despite her age. "I work in tech," Chidi replied. "Software development. I can show you my office, my contracts, my clients. Everything is transparent." "Good," she said. "In this compound, we believe in transparency. We share meals, we share struggles, and we share truth. Can you live with that?" Chidi smiled, understanding the weight of the question. "I wouldn't want it any other way." And so life continued at number 47 Ademola Street, watchful, wise, and free. The destiny mirror was gone, shattered beyond repair, but in its place was something better. A community that looked at each other with clear eyes and said, "We see you, we know you, and we will protect each other." That, they had learned, was the only true magic worth having. Thank you for watching this powerful journey through the compound of stolen destinies. If this story moved you, shocked you, or taught you something new, then don't leave without supporting the community. Like the video, drop a comment. Tell me your thoughts or experiences. Share this story with someone who needs the warning, and subscribe to Tales by Larinzy for more unforgettable stories every week. This channel grows because of you, and your support keeps these stories alive. Remember, in this life, not every blessing is divine, not every smile is pure, and not every wealthy hand that offers help comes without a hidden chain. Stay wise, stay protected, and stay connected with Tales by Larinzy, where stories do more than entertain. They open your eyes. Until our next tale, good night, and stay vigilant.